I think if we're going to talk about communication, we have to talk about what the needs of your wife is and the needs of you, needs of a man, right? What she does and what you do is we usually try to fulfill our own needs by fulfilling the other person's needs.
You have to be able to talk with your significant other, spouse, and see what it is that makes them tick. What do you think the underlying foundational cornerstone of being a good dad?
Emotional intelligence. What a lot of guys will do, me included too, is we get really uncomfortable with these big emotions. The more attuned you are to emotional intelligence and you're able to communicate with them, the more emotional intelligence you're going to raise them with.
And we're live. Larry, how are you, brother?
What's up, Robert? Good to see you, man.
Likewise, man. This is the first time we've ever interacted. I actually didn't even know of you until one of my former employees hit me up on Instagram and was like, hey, you got to get this guy on your podcast. He's got a book coming out and he's got some great stuff. So I'm excited to learn more about this great stuff, man.
Oh, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's always kind of cool to meet somebody who's truth be told, I was actually going to go into the health and wellness and fitness space. I got my degree in sports med with a minor in nutrition. So I was going to go into fitness and wellness and training and all that. My big audacious dream was to be a trainer for a professional team. And that was insanely hard to do. So I ended up going into sales.
Hey, sales works too, man. What did you do for sales? What company were you with?
So I started right out of college. I started with a company called Bristol Myers Squibb. Started in pharmaceutical sales. Did that for a couple of years. Switched companies. Did another 2 years of pharmaceutical sales. Got really bored with it, and then got in. I really, really, really wanted to do surgical sales. So I did that in 2003, and then I kind of retired from that industry. And back in 2020, so did that for 17 years. And I got to be honest, minus the crazy amount of travel and the schedule that I had, I loved it. I loved being in the OR. It was fascinating to me. I just couldn't, it was one of those things, man. I just kind of couldn't get enough of it. I think, even every boss I worked for, I think they rather kind of enjoyed me working for them because I was super passionate about the job because quite frankly, I loved it so much. Some people would kind of do it for the paycheck, but I just thought surgery was the most fascinating thing ever. And, but yeah, I did that for 17 years.
Sales is important, man. Whether you're in the sales industry or not, people need to think of themselves as salespeople because I feel like we're all our own brand. And if you can sell something that you believe in and are passionate about, it just makes it all that much easier.
I agree. And I think if you really love what you sell, so for instance, one of the most, the most passionate thing I was a part of, I was in spine surgery for 7 of those years. And oh my gosh, I just absolutely loved that because the surgery that I did, patients would come in debilitating pain, horrible pain, could not even move pain. And they would do our procedure. It took about an hour. And then the patients would get up and walk and they thought the surgeon was a freaking miracle worker. It was they would hug the surgeons and stuff. It was just fascinating. I just loved it.
That's cool, man. That's cool. What was the catalyst for you stepping away from that and building your lifestyle brand now?
So, so how Dad Edge got started, and I'm happy to just share my story, because it really kind of, be honest, it started with my childhood. I've shared this story, probably 1,000 or 2 times. But most of the time when I share a story, dude, that sounds like a freaking Netflix series. It sounds crazy. And I think everybody's got, a struggle and a story, but I think mine actually started when I was a kid. That's when really Dad Edge got started. So my mom and biological father, they got married really young. I think they had a really quick, meeting. It was 6 months later, dude, they were married at 21. Mm-hmm. And so they really were it's like a love at first sight, you're passionate, you're young and all that stuff. And they had problems in their marriage as most young people would, but 4 years later in 1975, they had me. And then about 9 months after I was born, my mom and dad called it quits. And I don't even know, to be honest with you, Robert, I don't know all the details of it, but I do know that it was so bad that my dad just decided to exit. And I'll go back and share the reasons behind that. But I didn't know a dad at all. In fact, it wasn't until I was about 4 or 5 years old. That's kind of when the audio video sort of turns on, your memory sort of turns on. I remember vividly being in kindergarten And I remember dads would come and pick up my friends from school. And I was like, oh, I know what a dad is, and go to friends' houses. You know what a dad is. Some dads wear suits and some dads wear jeans. Some dads wear hard hats and that kind of thing. And I knew I didn't have a dad. No self-pity whatsoever, because in my 5-year-old mind, moms find dads. Like literally, I believed in the cartoon storks. Like I was delivered to the doorstep and my mom would eventually find us a dad at some point. Like that was literally my interpretation. And I'll never forget, man, my mom, when I was 5, she pulled me aside one day when I came home from school. She's like, hey, I just want to let you know, we're going to have a friend of mine over for dinner. I work with him. I've known him for a few months. He's super nice and he's a good friend of mine. I just want you to meet him. I think that was her way of like, speaking in code of like, I've been dating someone I've worked with and it's now time for us to have the awkward meeting of you meeting him. Right. But dude, I'll never forget, man, 5 years old. Like I was like, oh my God, she found the dad. I didn't even say it out loud. I was like, she found the dad. Like this guy's the dad. And I was just anticipating like this guy coming in, like, and I'll never forget. I even remember the way he walked in my house. The door knocked, my mom opens the door. This guy's wearing a trench coat. It's cold outside. He's wearing a 3-piece suit, a double Windsor tie. He's got the handlebar mustache, the feathered hair. He was a white collar data software engineer. And dude, my mom introduced me to him. I shook his hand. I looked up at him with these beaming eyes. And I remember this clear as day. I was like, are you going to be my dad? And like, he just was like looked stunned. And I think I even heard my mom like gasp, like, but dude, 6 months later, they got married. And I'll tell you, man, it was euphoric. I was like, oh my gosh, we have family. This is great. The first year was awesome. And my dad worked a lot. My mom quit her job. My mom was home. Like I was like, dude, this is great. This is family. And then like about a year after that, like really bad things start to happen, man. Like really, like their relationship like really went south. They drank a lot. They fought a lot. They beat each other up. He beat me up a lot. I even remember at one point, I think I was 6 or 7 years old. I remember waking up in the middle of the night, hearing my mom like screaming like death, murder. I was like, what is happening? I ran out of my room, ran into their bedroom. My dad was holding my mom down with both of her hands. Nothing sexual was happening. They were fully clothed, but they were fighting and he was holding her down and she was screaming. And I went over to my dad and I just was like trying to peel his hands off my mom. And I was like even punching his hand, trying to get it off. And my dad like just grabbed me by the neck, drug me into my room, threw me in my room, slammed the door. I went back out. I did it again, went back out, did it again. And finally I got so freaked out. I put my hands over my ears because I didn't want to hear my mom screaming. And I just yelled as loud as I could to drown out the noise. Well, my neighbors heard me and the cops came. And that wasn't the first time the cops came to my house in the middle of the night to break up my parents. But that was horrific. I mean, there was so much tension. There was so much animosity. The environment was so toxic that all there was like just unsafety. And I'll never forget, by the time I was 10, their relationship totally came to an end. They got divorced. And I remember like that feeling of relief. I'm like, oh, like they're not going to be fighting anymore. But there was also like this tremendous void, man. Like, cause at that point in time, I mean, like that was 40, it was 40 years ago. And a lot of my friends' parents were still married. Divorce wasn't nearly as common as it is now. So I'm like the dude without the dad and just kind of was lost and, no dad around. My mom had to go back to work. And then I really started asking some questions. I'm like, man, where did I come from? I know about the birds and the bees. I know this guy was not my dad. And that's when my mom told me. She's like, I've never told you this. I was kind of waiting for the right time, but I was married before and you have a dad out there. And I was like, what? I had no idea. And then my mom showed me the wedding album and all that. Well, 2 years passed by. She dates these random dudes, all of them are like the same type of dude, just toxic partiers, really wanted nothing to do with me. And they were abusive too. When I was 12, something crazy happened. I went up to a rec center to go play basketball with one of my friends. I'll never forget this. It was like over Christmas break or something like that. And I knew my dad's name. I didn't know where he was, and neither did my mom, apparently. I don't know if that was true or not, but she told me she didn't know where he was. And I was getting my basketball from the clerk behind the desk, and he looked out the window and he saw this woman coming. He goes, oh, here comes Mrs. Boyd with the hockey payment. And my dad actually played hockey up there. And I looked at the clerk and I was like, did you say Boyd? And he said, yeah. And he goes, who's that? And he said, oh, her husband, she's coming in to make the hockey payment, the ice payment, because her husband plays hockey up here. And I was like, what's her husband's name? He said, Larry. And I was like, this is my name. That's my dad's name. And I was like, I looked at my friend who was with me and I was like, I think this lady coming in the door is married to my dad. And he was like, what? So I wait for her to make the payment. And then I walk up to her, I tap her on the shoulder. I'm like, excuse me. I'm like a 12-year-old kid. And she's like, yes, can I help you? And I go, yeah. I go, what's your name? And she told me. And I go, are you married to a guy named Larry? And she said, yeah. And I go, I know this sounds crazy, but I think your husband's my dad. And she's like, and she just, then it hit her. She's like, oh my gosh. She goes, sweetheart, are you Larry? And I said, yeah, I am. And she goes, I know exactly who you are. Would you like to talk to your dad? And I was like, of course I want to talk to my dad. I was like, yeah, I want to talk to my dad. So we go around the corner to this payphone. She puts a quarter in, calls home, and she's like, hey, I'm up at the rec center. I just made the hockey payment. I ran into your 12-year-old son. He wants to talk to you. And just handed over the phone. And Robert, I don't even remember what was said. I just remember we talked, and there was like this humble, shocked voice over the phone. And we talked for a handful of minutes, but then I was like, can we meet? And he was like, ask your mom. But yes, I would love to. Came home, told my mom, ended up meeting him. I'll never forget that day. I wore a suit to meet my dad, and I just wanted to look my best. And my dad gave me this massive hug, and we spent the day together. And that day turned into 6 months. And for 6 months, I saw my dad every week. He only lived 3 miles from us. And I saw him every week. He came to my Little League games. I spent time with him, his wife, my 2-year-old half brother. She was pregnant with my other half brother at the time. And I was like on cloud 9, man. My dad has come back into the picture, and it was pretty good, man. Then around 6 months, I started to not hear from him as much, and I couldn't figure out why. And I'll never forget, I called him up and I basically was asking him like, hey, is everything okay with us? And I got to be honest, Robert, I don't remember what was said. All I remember is that was the end again. And my dad exited again. And I didn't know why. And I became really lost at that point. Kind of gave up on a lot of things. I started overeating. I got really fat as a kid. I failed the 8th grade. I had to do 8th grade twice. My mom continued to date like this revolving door of horrible men. One guy in particular lived with us for 2 years when I was from 15 to 17. That was the worst nightmare ever. I won't even go into the details, but abuse, mentally, physically, emotionally, it was like nothing me and my mom have ever experienced in my life. He moved out. I went away to college, got my degree, met my college sweetheart there, and then got into sales, just kind of like what we were talking about. And then fast forward a few years later, about a decade later, I'm 30 years old, and I'm in a Starbucks, and I'm in medical device sales, and I'm meeting with my sales team. And one of the women who were on my team, my wife and her husband, we were also friends outside of work. So we hung out. She knew my story. And during that coffee meeting, I look up and some man came walking through the door. It was my dad. I had not seen him since I was 12. And by the way, the guy that was my dad left at 10. I have never seen him since.
The handlebar mustache guy?
What's that?
The handlebar mustache?
The handlebar mustache guy. I never saw. He passed away about 15 years ago, but never saw him again. So this friend of mine who also is on my sales team sees this look on my face. I was like, I don't even know what I did. I was probably like, well, she was like, are you all right? She goes, you look like you've just seen a ghost. And I was like, you're not going to believe this. I was like, but my dad just walked in here. And she's like, I'm sorry, what? And I was like, yeah, my dad. She's like, wait. She's like, the one you haven't seen since you were 12? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, no freaking way. Where is he? And I was like, right there. Like he was like 25 feet away. She's like, oh my God. She goes, what are you going to say to him? Are you going to go up to him? And I'm like, no. I mean, I was pretty bitter about it. I was like, no. I was like, I'm not going to go. I'm 30 years old. I'm like, these guys have been a part of my life for 30 years. And he exited twice last time I checked. Well, she took that as a nudge, I guess. She just got up from the table, walked over to his table and sat down. And I was like, what is about to happen? Well, then I don't know what she said. I think she said something along the lines of like, hey, you don't know me. I just want to let you know your son's in this coffee shop. You haven't seen him in 18 years. He's a good man. It would do you well to get to know him. And then he came over and we shook hands. And he's like, hey, he's like, how are you? And I'm like, fine. How are you? I mean, I wasn't an ass, but I wasn't really nice. I was kind of in between. He's like, man, we talked, shared some conversation. I don't remember what we said. He goes, we should get together sometime. And I'm like, I'll tell you what. I go, here's my card. Cause at the time smartphones, it was 2005. It wasn't really a big thing. I said, here's my card. If you want to get together, you can contact me. And he's like, okay, I will. And I was like, okay. I make my dad sound like a bum. He's not. He's an unbelievably successful entrepreneur. He's got a great family. He's still married to the same woman, has been for 47 years. But I got an email three days later, and it was a long email. And basically the theme of it was, I'm really sorry. And if you'll have me back in your life, I would love to be a part of it in some way, shape, or form, even if it's something, whatever you want. So I agreed to a breakfast, and that breakfast has turned into a 20-year relationship. I have a great relationship with him, his wife, my 2 younger half brothers. My kids know him as grandma and grandpa, 2 uncles, got extended family now, which is awesome. But Dad Edge really got started because it wasn't until 6 years after this, when my oldest was 6 and my youngest at the time, excuse me, was 4. I made 3 promises to myself when I first got married because of my upbringing. Number 1, I'm going to be a good dad. I'm going to be a good dad. I'm going to get that one right. Because, man, this one was screwed up for me. I know what it feels like to be beat down. I know what it feels like to be abused. I know what it feels like to not and want to have a father. I'm going to be a good dad. I broke that promise. I'm going to be a good husband. That was my second promise. I'm going to be a good communicator. I'm going to figure this out. Yeah, I screwed that one up too. 10 years, I sucked at it. I've been married for 22. 10 years, a decade, I sucked at it. And then the final one is, I'm never going to hit my children out of anger. That's how Dad Edge got started. My 4-year-old at the time never spanked my kids, stepped out of line. I turned him around. I swatted him on the butt. And unfortunately, I hit him so hard, he lost his footing and he fell. And as soon as that happened, it was like I was just hit in the face with a sledgehammer of reality. Like, holy crap, I just freaking did what was done to me. And then it got worse. He was face down and then he rolled over and I was like, oh my God. I was like, are you all right? And I went to go pick him up. I was like, are you okay? And he literally was like just shuddered, like closed his eyes, like, please don't hurt me. And I was like, I have told this story, man, for over a decade. And every freaking time, man, it gets to me because I see his face and his face reminds me so much of me. And that was it. That was freaking it, man. That night I went into my office and I was in front of my computer and I had tears rolling down my eyes because when you're an adult and you have a bad moment, you go on Facebook or you go do something to distract yourself from the dumbass thing you just did, just to escape. And there was a button that I noticed in the left-hand corner. It said, create a page. I had never created a page. And I hit that button and it said, what do you want to name your page? And dude, the Good Dad Project, I just typed it. I have no idea how that idea even came. I'm a faith-based guy. I believe that was a divine intervention of just surrender. But in that moment, I literally surrendered. I was like, I have no clue how to do this. None. And I'm screwing it up. And I started looking at other areas of my life where I was doing pretty well. And at the time, like I was in bodybuilding, right? I was in fitness. I was also in martial arts. I was really good at my sales job. And I started really looking at those things in my life that I was good at. And what was the common denominator? The common denominator is that I went and got a 4-year degree in sports medicine and nutrition. I had to go through 90 days of training, before I even was able to even set foot in an operating room with a surgeon, right? I mean, like that's intense training. And, martial arts, I did it for over a decade. I was pretty decent at it, but why? I had an instructor, I had a community, I had a curriculum. Fatherhood, marriage, I had nothing. I was winging it just like everybody else, and I sucked at it. So I asked myself, is there a way? Is there a way I could learn this? And what I can tell you, since 2012, I can definitely say without a shadow of a doubt that if you learn the skills of marriage, if you learn the skills of fatherhood, it is just like everything else. You can learn it. You don't have to wing it. And that's what the Dad Edge is. And that's how the Dad Edge got started. I wish I could say it started great, but it started with a really dark moment, man.
I love it, man. I feel like I just listened to you talk for the next 3 hours, man. This is cool stuff. I feel like this is answering a massive need right now. Cause when you look at, statistics, more than half of the U.S. population is obese. More than half of the U.S. marriages end in divorces, which just boggles my mind, man. Like I didn't really come from a family with divorce riddled through it. Like my folks have been together their whole life. They got married young. Their folks have been together their whole life. Like I was raised in a pretty solid household. There were like hardships, there were obstacles, but I have a solid footing. But then when I look at people who that wasn't the case, like it just becomes this self-perpetuating feedback loop. And once you come from a family with lots of divorce, it makes, like, I don't know what the statistics are, but your likelihood of also having a divorce is amplified tremendously. And I feel like most people just wing it and they just resort to what they know. And if that's what they know, that's what happens. So having some place to turn to be better and like be proactive in being better, I think is a huge need that we as a society need to face and just accept.
That is so well said. I mean, everything you just said, if people could bottle that one up and really lean into it, you are absolutely dead on, man.
When you're working with people, like, what do you think the common denominator is? Like with the people that come into your program, where are they struggling? Man, you're going to have obviously a lot of individualized components, but like, what is the common denominator? Like, what is their primary issue or catalyst for concern?
It'd probably be better if I answer. I could do like a sort of a big broad stroke. I think, hey, most guys come to our table because they're struggling with how to connect to their wife, right? And build intimacy and get out of that roommate syndrome that a lot of us are in. I've also seen men come to the table because they're like, man, like I just don't know how to relate to a kid who's between the ages of 3 and 10. Like I don't know exactly what that looks like or what to do. I feel like I'm always kind of second guessing myself. For some guys, believe it or not, it's physical fitness. It's not like we help guys with physical fitness directly, but it's a part of what we do because it's part of a man's life. I would also say that it has a lot to do with his mindset. If he's impatient, even with himself, the conversations that men have with themselves that nobody else can hear. I mean, we probably wouldn't speak to our worst enemies the way we speak to ourselves. So like a reset in the mindset might be a big thing, but maybe I think a better description might be to describe a man's total life. And I'm happy to do that. So when I first got started with this back in 2015, I had a great mentor. I didn't know really what I was doing. I was doing this as a hobby, as a therapeutic hobby. I still do it as something that's very therapeutic for me. But I had this great mentor of mine who was about 15 years ahead of me, and he really knew about podcasting and sharing a message. He's like, you really need to, and this guy was a great, amazing, like Christian-based mentor of mine, a business owner as well. He's actually best friends with Dave Ramsey. He's been in a mastermind with Dave Ramsey for over 30 years. He knew Dave before Dave was even Dave Ramsey. And he's like, you need to have an avatar of who you're speaking to. And at the time I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, you need to have somebody that you're speaking to, like somebody who's like your best friend, like when you're writing your books or when you're on your podcast. And I was like, well, I'm kind of like just speaking to me. And he's like, yeah, that doesn't really work. And I was like, well, what do you want me to do? He's like, I want you to literally create what the man's world is like. So I created this man named Lance. Right? Lance is 38 years old. Lance has been 38 years old for the past 10 years, by the way. Lance has got 3 kids under 10. He's married to a wonderful woman named Kate. They've been married for 12 years and they knew each other for 3 years before that. And when they first started dating, everything was great. He was in his career and like it felt euphoric. And then he got married and started having kids. And then slowly but surely, Kate stopped working. She was a stay-at-home mom. So now he's working. Now 2 kids, now 3 kids. Lance starts to look around his social circle. He starts to notice that a lot of his friends are more surface level friends. Maybe he's got some college buddies, but the conversations that he has are more like about the good old days and that kind of thing. He's surrounded physically by people all day long, but there's no one really speaking a whole lot of goodness in his life. Lance also goes to a job every single day that he pretty much doesn't like in some way, shape, or form, because 82% of men go to a job every single day that they don't like. Only 18% of men, quite frankly, love what they do. So he feels a little trapped. He knows that there's more on the table. He wants to do more, but he doesn't want to upset the family and do something else. This paycheck is steady, but it kind of sucks his soul away. Then he comes home after working at a job where it's kind of sucks his soul to a wife that he gets along with, but they're kind of roommates. They really don't have a whole lot of intimacy. Their conversations are super high level. It's all about the kids, the chores, the roles, the bills. They don't go out on dates anymore. They go to bed. They're not having sex nearly as much as he wants to, or even she probably wants to. And they just sort of feel stuck. It's all about the kids. On top of it, he's not really patient with his kids. It's a lot to handle. He doesn't feel fulfilled. And then he gets up and does the whole thing all over again every single day. Physically, he's not the fittest he's ever been because, man, I feel guilt. If I'm taking care of myself, I feel shame. How can I possibly take care of myself? I've got all these other people to take care of. So he's going to a job he hates. Physically, he doesn't feel good. Mentally, he doesn't feel great. Emotionally, he doesn't feel great. And he knows that there is so much left on the table, but he doesn't know exactly how to access it. He wants that connection with Kate. He wants that connection with his kids. He wants that fulfilling life. He wants to do that work that makes him come alive. And I'll finish with this. One of the worst things, one of the most sinister things, in my opinion, are probably the men who are speaking into Lance's life. He's got these surface level relationships. Every answer is fine, good, or busy. How's work? Oh, it's busy. We're really busy. How's Kate? Oh, she's great. She's fine. She's doing good. How are the kids? Oh, they're good. They're good. We're busy. They're doing this and that. And that's about it. And then we start talking about other things like politics, or we talk sports or whatever. But everyone, as soon as he starts to open up about his issues, his friends will speak to him like this: dude, you've known her for 15 years. You ain't gonna have sex anymore. Come on, man. Like, you guys are parents now, and kids, yeah, they're a lot. Like, you're gonna be impatient with them. They can be a pain in the rear end, and get over the fact that you don't like what you do. Nobody likes what they do, man. So what Lance does is he buys into that and he settles. And then he's just like, damn, I thought there was gonna be more. And that, I think, is the life of a lot of dudes out there, man.
It is. Like, as you're illustrating that, like, I know so many people like that. I'm sure everybody listening to this knows somebody like that or is that person. Yeah. And I feel like when you recognize yourself starting to settle, man, like that's where the check engine light's got to come on. Like, you only got one life. And if you're just going to be mediocre, like, that's my biggest fear in life is mediocrity. Like, I don't want that to be what defines me.
I could not agree more with that. I mean, and that's the thing. At the end of the day, I think, and I don't want to speak for you, but I just knowing you for the few minutes that I have, I honestly believe that you and I are probably on the same fence of this, which is like, my heart aches for guys like Lance. Like, I don't look down on guys like that. I don't look at guys like Lance who are weak and, who are less than. I look at guys like Lance who are just like, no, I want more. I desire more. Like, what is it? What's out there? How can I get it? Right. But they don't know how, and everyone else is telling them. So I'm here to tell you, I want to be a voice for Lance. I want to be a cheering section for Lance. I want Lance to come in and learn things and create that marriage that he wants. I want him to come in and learn some things and create that connection with his kids that he wants. Like, that is the fan club for Lance.
How do you think people find themselves in that situation to begin with? Is it just like society's structure, like go to school, get a job, get married, have kids? It's just the expectation and people just kind of fall into it by default? Like, why is it that the majorities fit into that mold?
I think you just explained it. I think it's society is sending you that message. Your friends are probably sending you that message. Your parents probably sending you that message, right? I'll never forget when I left medical device sales to do this full time, and my in-laws didn't even really know like how, from a business standpoint, like how Dad Edge was doing. I think they kind of viewed it as a hobby. They had no idea what was going on. And my biggest fear, man, no kidding around, was not necessarily telling my wife that I wanted to quit. At the time I quit my job, I was the national sales director. I covered the entire country. I had 132 reps under me, making great money. And like when I quit my job, my biggest fear was like, my in-laws are going to think that their son-in-law has lost their freaking mind. And they probably, and that's exactly what they thought. They were like, Larry, you have 4 kids. Like, what are you going to do? And then I was like, we're good. And she's like, no, this can't possibly work. And I was like, no, it does. It has. And I shared with them what the business was doing. And then they're like, oh, we had no idea. So even then, even when I had a secure runway to exit the norm, right? Even my in-laws were like, what are you doing? They were freaking out because that's what society tells us to do.
Yeah, it's so countercultural when you're doing your own thing and that's in line with your passions. And I feel like it's countercultural because the majority of society doesn't believe in themselves enough to pursue their own passions and make a meaningful difference. So it's like crabs in a bucket, man. They want to hold everybody else down. But like, I feel like once you're doing your own thing and you're creating more value than you're taking, like that becomes this heartbeat of your livelihood. And that just bleeds into everything. That bleeds into your family life, how you parent your kids, your ability to have patience, your ability to play the long game. Like I look at friends of mine that are working for the man, checking the box, hitting the time clock at the end of the day. And it's just like they live for the weekends. They obsess over sports teams. Like they're living vicariously through everybody else instead of living their own life. And I feel like that's where, as they say, the idle mind's the devil's playground. But like when you're busy doing your own thing that you're passionate about, like that just consumes your thoughts. You're excited about the future. You're excited to wake up and hit the ground running. And then that bleeds into how you interact with your wife, how you talk with your kids. Whereas if you're just miserable, checking the boxes, trapped by the golden handcuffs because you've got all these bills and expectations that people expect of you, then it's like you feel trapped. And when you're trapped up against a wall, that's where negative things start happening. Where affairs come into the picture, divorces happen, you beat your kids, things like that, drugs, vices, porn. It's like none of that has to be there if you're living your best life because you're doing what you want to be doing and it's meaningful work.
Agreed. I mean, bottle that one up too with what you said and make sure the audience hears that, man. I love how you reflect things back.
It is cool though, man. Like I think break down the nuts and bolts of how you walk people through your program. Like, what does that look like tangibly?
Sure. So it all depends on how a man like enters, right? So everyone enters in the same way, right? It's just a matter of like, so like for instance, for 9 years now, we've had the same, journey for men to come do life with us, for group coaching. I think that's kind of what you're getting at. We have an application process. And then we have someone meet. We have a 3-man team that meets with our applicants. And people are like, why do you go to that trouble to for a $100 a month program? Like, why not just put a click and, jump in type of thing? And that's because our program is really personal. It's really personal. We have men fill out an application for 2 reasons. Number one, we really want to get to know you, right? And the application takes like 4 minutes, like literally, but it gives us some context around like, what's going on, in your marriage or with parenting, or what area is it that has your attention? Why are you applying and what would be most meaningful for you to accomplish, right? Because we really want to know like what is most meaningful to you, right? So that's reason number one, is that we want to get to know men, because by the time they meet with our guys, the guys are like, okay, I really understand where this guy's probably at, right? The second reason we do this, the application process, is because it's a test. It's a test. You want to know something funny? Our application is 7 questions, and it's a type form, and a couple of them are just, check which one refers to you most. And then there's a couple that you just type out a few things. It takes about 4 minutes to do. Guess what the completion rate on that application is?
Abysmally low, man.
28.7%.
Yeah, it's pretty pitiful.
28.7%. That means about 8 out of 10 men don't even finish the application. What do you think that tells us?
You don't want to work with them in the first place.
Well, I, the funny thing is man, I've got a heart that I want to help everybody, which sometimes really is not a great thing, but it's a good thing too, right?
They're going
Because
to
you
want to
want,
help themselves.
right. The application process is a gateway too, because we're like, you know what, if you can't finish 7 questions in under 4 minutes, which that's about how long it takes, you're probably not going to do any work here. You're probably not serious about it. So that application process is sort of the first gateway, the first test of how serious actually are you, right? And but that gives us a good gauge of who they are. After they join, what they do is we put them into an onboarding process where they pick a call team, and we have about 37 call teams that we have per week. So morning, afternoon, evenings, like no matter what time zone you're in, we have guys from all over the world. Our second biggest country that we serve is Australia, believe it or not. We have an entire coaching team just for our Australian guys. But when they come in, they pick a call team that works best for their time. And then we jump right in. And every single month we focus on a new skill, and then we break that skill down into 4 weeks. So like right now, in the month of October, when you guys are recording, it's leading from the front, right? So first week is leading yourself, leading your marriage, leading your kids, and then leading your community, right? And we teach them diehard leadership skills. And then we really simplify it too. We teach them 1 skill a week. We used to teach them 3. That's way too much. Like that's, 12 skills a month is a lot. So we teach them 1 skill a week. And our goal is like, take this skill, and obviously it's a lot of connecting on the call, right? It's not just teach a skill and these guys are off. It's a ton of connection time, ton of interaction. Our calls are extremely interactive. And then they implement that skill. They come back, we refine it, we polish it, teach them a new skill. But our goal is by the end of the year to teach men 12 different concepts as it relates to their life and how to optimize it. And I got to tell you, man, over the past decade, we have seen crazy turnarounds, like especially in marriage. Like, holy crap. Like there are some dudes that have come in and we're like, you'll be scratching your head and you're like, I don't know if this situation is going to turn out. We have one guy, like no kidding around. He moved out. This woman moved in a boyfriend. They weren't even divorced yet. This went on for like 3 months. Now, granted, he was asleep in his marriage. She had her problems too. But this dude came in and like completely like just gobbled up everything we did. And within a year, the boyfriend had moved out. They were back together and happy as can be. I was shocked. That was probably one of the worst things I've seen. And the dude completely turned it around.
That's awesome, man. It's got to be like pretty fulfilling work, just getting all these testimonials and stories from people seeing their life, change real time. What do you think like the biggest point of tension is as far as marriage is concerned? Like just lack of communication, or what do you think the main driver is there?
Definitely the communication standpoint. But I think if we're going to talk about communication, we have to talk about what the needs of your wife is and the needs of you, needs of a man, right? And this is where I think it's kind of like oil and water sometimes, right? John Gray had it right. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, right? And what each person tries to do, what she does and what you do, is we usually try to fulfill our own needs by fulfilling the other person's needs, but the needs are different. So like, for instance, your wife's greatest 3 needs are to feel seen, to feel heard, and to feel safe. And let me kind of like explain the safety aspect a lot. When I say safe, guys are like, well, that one's easy. She knows I'm not going to hurt her. I'm like, that's not the safety we're talking about. The safety we're talking about is, of course, physical safety. She also needs to feel emotionally safe with you. He's like, well, she does. Can your wife tell you anything? Absolutely anything. And you're not going to like fly off the handle or get upset or anything like that. Not to say that we can't get upset, but how are you going to receive, conversations from your wife to where she feels safe? Like, I can come and tell him this and he's not going to like completely lose his mind or freak out or anything like that. So there's an emotional safety aspect. There's also financial safety. A woman, like it or not, I'll say this as bluntly as can, a woman is not attracted to a man who is completely broke and cannot pay bills. That makes her feel very unsafe. Like she needs to make sure she's taken care of, her babies are taken care of. And so there's financial safety. There's also safety and patience with her kids, with your kids, with the kids you have together. A woman needs to feel that you're not going to lose your mind on the kids, right? So there's that kind of safety as well. So In order to make a woman feel seen, heard, and safe, you have to learn how to validate her emotional state. You have to not fix her problems and validate where she's at. That makes her feel seen. It makes her feel heard. The other thing too is appreciating some of the things that you see that she does. Like not even saying like, hey, thanks for going to the grocery store. It's more like, hey, thank you so much for going to the grocery store. Like you always seem to pick out everybody's favorite food and just thank you for doing that. We really appreciate it. Things like that, where it's genuine things that you see, like you're going to make your wife feel on top of the world. And then contrast to that, our three needs as men is to feel respected, to feel appreciated, and we need physical affection. Those three things we need, right? So that's no wonder guys, they want to compliment their wives because they want to appreciate them. They want to touch their wives all over because they want to show love. But a woman, quite frankly, needs other things. And so do we.
Yeah, I feel like you follow much of Jordan Peterson's work?
Yeah, sure. I love Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, so I listened to all of his books when he came out with them, and he got into a lot of hot water because he kind of modeled more of a traditional house where like the male and the female had, defined roles, kind of capitalizing on their expertise. And, like we're in this woke genre now where everybody's got to wear the pants, so to speak. But like my wife and I, we've always had a relatively conventional, traditional outlook, and it's just worked really well for us because like she's able to capitalize on her strengths, I'm able to capitalize on mine. We respect each other working in our own fields, and we have a shared goal. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I feel like a lot of people try to, I don't know, answer the needs that are not, the spouse's needs so much as their own needs. And I feel like but again, it kind of goes back to communication. Like you have to be able to talk with your significant other, spouse, and see what it is that makes them tick. And I feel like a lot of people just totally miss the boat on that.
They do. And I think one of the other reasons that we miss that boat is because, take Lance and Kate, right? After they start having kids, the majority of their conversations are around the management and the operations of the household, right? It's like, oh, little Mikey's got practice, and oh, Julie's got, this going on for her science class. And, there's all these distractions, and we're always talking about the things that need to be done versus like, hey, what would it look like if we weren't mom and dad talking about mom and dad stuff in the family? What if we went back to having conversations because we're a couple, because we're married, right? Because those are the worlds that I think we need to live in, both worlds. We need to be a married couple, and we also need to be a family as well.
Yeah, one of the things that I admire in my folks, they've always had like a dedicated coffee time. Like no matter what chaos was going on, they always had dedicated coffee time. And we do that with, our home as well. We have a 3-year-old, and three's tough, man. Three's a tough age because you can't really reason with them yet. So you got to be patient, but you can't rationalize really with a 3-year-old. So any tips you got on dealing with 3-year-olds, man? I'm all ears.
Man, so you know what? Without getting like into the weeds of it, but like, have you ever heard of Love and Logic?
Mm-mm.
Love and Logic has been around for a long time, and I'll never forget when we had younger kids at the time, when my 2 older boys were at that age, we took that class. We took Love and Logic, and it was a game changer, like an absolute game changer. Basically, what Love and Logic really helps a parent do is it helps you not get in I'll never forget the instructor we had. He's like, I want you to imagine for a moment that you were in college and you just got hammered drunk, like kind of like irrational, hammered drunk. Couldn't really make decisions, couldn't really walk right. Everything was funny and idiotic, and people would try to talk to you. You wouldn't make any sense. That's your 3-year-old. Every waking moment. And then when they said that, and they're like, so why would you if you're not going to try to rationalize with someone who's hammered and irrational, why would you try to rationalize with a 3-year-old? And I was like, I don't know what that epiphany was. I was like, oh my gosh, I can really relate to that. So like, how do you relate so you basically use Love and Logic. So like, for instance, when your kid is throwing a temper tantrum, right? Or something like that, and they're like really, really upset about something, what we would usually do is like, oh man, God, but I could see you're really upset, buddy. I'll tell you what, why don't we do this? I'm happy to sit with you and we can calm down, or you can go in your room for 3 minutes and just take a breath and just, it's not a punishment. You can just kind of calm down and then come back. What I just did there is I gave the little guy choices, right?
Mm.
Which that love and logic is big, huge on choices. You want to start as early as possible to get a kid making choices, and you want to give them the choices that you don't care which one they pick. That's the caveat. Give them choices that you don't care if it's A or B. I don't care which one they pick. So if they say, I want you here to help me calm down. Okay, cool. Let's talk about it. Or they might be like, I need a minute. Like most kids won't say that, but some kids will be like, I'm going to go in my room. It might be they're going there to play, calm down or whatever, but they'll learn to self-soothe, right? That's not necessarily a part of love and logic, self-soothing, but the choices are, right? And that's a good way of us keeping our cool, right? Like, man, I can see you're really upset. That's a validation. I can see you're really upset. That kid feels seen, which by the way, your 3 kids' needs are the same as your wife. Seen, heard, safe. So it makes it the easiest for us. So it's like, I can see you're upset right now. I'll tell you what, we've got 2 choices. I can either sit here and talk to you and calm down, or you can go in your room and I'll set a timer for 3 minutes. You can go in there and play and just kind of calm down for a moment and then come back out and we'll talk. And they'll choose. They'll usually choose. But like once you've done that, you can get in front of quite a lot. Now, if it's something really bad, then obviously that there needs to be consequences. There need to be that, but there's always choices that are given, which I really loved about love and logic. Like, hey, this is not the way we behave. I'm just giving you a warning right now. If I see you do that again, you know our agreement. And by the way, they're really big on that word too. It's not a punishment. This is an agreement. We agreed that you were going to sit in your room for 4 minutes after you've done this or that, right? And after the kid does it, be like, oh man, remember we agreed on? You got to go in your room. I literally just had to do this with my 11-year-old last night. He's got this bad habit of leaving soaking wet towels on his carpeted bedroom, and it drives me nuts because of like all the crap that could happen. Last night, I told him 3 nights ago, I was like, hey, Lawson, man, you remember our agreement, right? Towels don't end up on the floor and you don't have to get fired up, yelling, screaming. And he's like, yeah. And I go, so if I see a towel on the floor, you know our agreement, you can't play with friends for the next day. Last night, I walk in his room to say goodnight. I see a towel on the ground. I didn't have to get pissed. I didn't have to yell at him. I was just like, hey, what's on the ground? He's like, oh, it's a towel. I was like, yeah. You remember our agreement, right? He's like, I can't play with friends tomorrow. I'm like, yeah, but you know what? I bet you won't forget the next day, will you? No, I won't. So that's love and logic.
I like that. Yes. So I just need to Google that, love and logic, and it pops up.
Yeah, they have like, gosh, we're going back 20 years. We not only took a class that was live because like it really wasn't a virtual thing at the time, but like I think I know we did. We bought the DVDs, and my wife also, we watched them. They were really good. But yeah, I'm sure you can find it all online now.
Yeah, I'll check that out because like he's super smart and like very inquisitive. And we just had that 3-month-old not too long ago. So like he's not jealous towards the 3-month-old, but he just wants more attention, and he'll do things to get attention, whether it's good or bad. And like I'm trying to like, you can't, like I said, can't really rationalize with a 3-year-old because like you can tell them consequences, you can tell them reasons, but they don't stick. And I'm trying to figure out how to discipline a 3-year-old because, if he's like the drunk, analogy, then like he's not even going to remember it the next day.
Yeah.
So like, I like that because I haven't resorted to, spanking him. I got spanked a few times when I was a kid, but I don't really want to pull that because I don't feel like it's necessary if I play my cards right. But yeah, Love and Logic, man, I'll check that out.
It's a great program. Like I said, it's been around for, I think, at least a couple decades, but it's fantastic.
What do you think the like underlying foundational thing, like if you had to just, this thing is the hallmark moment, the cornerstone of being a good dad, what would that be summarized to?
Emotional intelligence.
Okay.
100%.
Got it. Emotional intelligence. Being able to like relate with your kid and understand where they're coming from and care.
Yeah. So emotional intelligence is, and quite frankly, a lot of us, and I say us because me included, that is something that I think every man could probably work on just a little bit more. And when I say emotional intelligence, I think a lot of guys feel that as like, well, that's kind of like a soft thing. Like it's emotional. It's like, I need to be the protector. Like I need to be the leader. Like I need to be the provider. Well, you get to actually do all three of those things with emotional intelligence. You get to protect your kids' emotions, right, by helping them through their emotions. You get to provide emotional safety if you know emotional IQ, right? And you get to lead your kids because your kids are little. I have two older ones now, 17 and 19. But the more attuned you are to emotional intelligence and you're able to communicate with them, the more emotional intelligence you're going to raise them with. So like, for instance, emotional intelligence is like, so for instance, if your kid is really upset about something, right? A lot of guys, and I'm actually just coming off of a coaching call right now with a brand new client. And he was like, one of his biggest things was, he's like, I got a 13-year-old daughter and I have a really hard time with her big emotions. So, and I'm like, why is that? He's like, I don't know what to do with them. That's emotional intelligence. So what a lot of guys will do, me included too, is we get really uncomfortable with like these big emotions that come our way from our kids, right? Or like even our wives. And that's the reason we actually fix. We want to fix the problem. So if our kids come to us with a problem, wives come with a problem, we want to fix it because we want to tamper down those big emotions. We want to help them feel better. We want to take their pain away. And we think the best way to do that is to give them advice and advise them. The funny thing about that is it's actually, if you have high emotional intelligence, it's actually quite a bit less work, brain power wise. So like, for instance, if my kids are like so upset about like, maybe they got a D on a test that they were studying so much for, and they're really upset about it, instead of being like, oh, it's no big deal, man. Like you'll bounce back. Like, it'll be fine. It's not that big of a deal. It's one test, basically what you're doing. I mean, that's kind of a condescending thing. Your kids actually don't feel seen and heard in that instance. But if you say something like, oh, dude, buddy, yeah, that's pretty frustrating, man. Like, I know you were studying, like, and I'm talking like legit, like you knew the kid studied. You're like, dude, I saw how hard you work, dude. That's gotta be really frustrating, man. Like, tell me more about that. Like, tell me how you're feeling, man. And then they'll just be like, yeah, I'm really sad. I'm really angry. I'm really frustrated, about that. I mean, think about like how many times you showed anger as a kid or sadness as a kid or something as a kid, and your parents were like, stop, you shouldn't feel that way. Don't feel, that's not that big of a deal. What's wrong with you? Don't be so upset about it. Basically what you're telling that kid, the message you're sending that kid is emotions are wrong, right? And in our house, we have a quote, all emotions are welcome. Every single one of them. You want to be angry? Be angry. You want to be sad? It's okay. You want to be happy? Great. But not all behaviors are welcome. So it's great. It's fine if you feel a certain way. If you're angry, like, be angry. I understand. Work will help you work through it. You punch a hole in your wall, that's a different story, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that, man. I got really big into stoicism several years back, and I feel like that's good because it's like we're not trying to squelch emotions. We're trying to, figure out the best action in light of the emotion and the circumstances. And I feel like if I can breathe that into my kiddos, that'd be worthwhile.
Yeah.
Do you have any like non-negotiables or just routines or habits that you do alongside your kids, like just as a ritual, so to speak?
So yeah, I've got one in particular that I think will probably really help your audience have better conversations with their kids. And I'll give you all the psychological reasons for it. Non-negotiable conversations. I love to have conversations with my kids every single day. And they've gotten so attuned to it now. They now ask me these questions back, or sometimes they'll even ask me these questions first. The first question I always ask first of all, let me ask this. What do you think is the question that people ask when they see each other after they, at the end of the day, or when the kids come home or whatever?
How was your day?
How was your day?
Like that.
Yeah. And what kind of answer do we get?
Fine.
Right. Now, here's what I'll tell you. That's a terrible question. Terrible question, because it will get you the exact answer you just said. It'll get you fine, good, boring, whatever, right? It'll get you that one word answer. However, the intention behind that question is beautiful. And here's why. That's a default question, but the heart of a dad, the heart of a mom, when we ask that question, or even when you ask your wife, is like, I care about you. I love you. I really want to know about your day. Will you please tell me about it, right? Like, tell me a story. Tell me about it, right? But that's not the answer we're going to get. So instead, ask a different question. I always like to start out with, I want to know a highlight from my kid's day. So I'll ask them, what was the best part of your day? What was something that made you smile? What was something that brought you joy today? What was a high point moment that made you feel amazing, right? I want to ask that question because I'm going to get a story. And number two, I'm also Miyagiing my kid's brain to dive into gratitude every single day. So I'm training them on gratitude, but I'm also getting a story, and I'm also getting connection. I'm getting those three things with that one thing. And then when they tell me, I get to reflect back like, dude, what? You got an A on the test, dude. Last week you got a D on the test. Like, come on, man. That's awesome. You must feel amazing, right? And I say those words, you must feel whatever I think that they're feeling, you. And I put that you in there because when someone is feeling a positive emotion, they want to own that emotion. They feel really good about it, right? And usually the response is like, yeah, I am, right? So you get a story. The second question, this one, you do this every day and you do it right, you become your kid's 3 a.m. call. And I can say that with all confidence because I've trained guys to do this. I've heard it time and time again. The kids will tell their dads the really tough things. They'll pick up the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning, tell their dad, hey, I drank. Can you come pick me up? Things like that. The second question provides psychological safety. And it's something we usually don't like to talk about. So my next question is, what did you fail at today? What did you completely bomb today? What was the biggest challenge you went through today? And how did you get through it? What I'm asking my kid in that point is for them to tell me something difficult, something they might be even ashamed of, right? And you'll see it. They'll be like, I'll be like, all right, come on, man. Looks like there's something. What is it? And I want them to be a little bit light when they tell me. So I'm like, instead of like, oh, so something happened today. What was it? Right? Because now you've just decimated psychological safety. Now the kid doesn't want to tell you. So the kid might say something like this. Dad, I got sent to the principal's office today. I'm like, whoa, okay. And I'll be like, that took a lot of courage to tell me, right? So good on you, man. Good for you for telling me. So I always praise them no matter what it is, even if it's something like I'm infuriated over, like I'm like freaking pissed out of my mind. I will praise them for their courage of telling me because it takes a lot of courage for a kid to tell a dad something like that or a mom, doesn't matter. And they don't want to do it. But you can train your kids to tell you all the bad things too. And they'll be like, well, Dad, I cheated on a test. Now that one, like, I might be like, I'd be like, in my mind, I may be like, all right, you're in serious trouble. But I'll be like, ooh, okay, what happened? And then it'll come out. Like usually an explanation will come out. Be like, well, I don't know, Dad. I was desperate. Like it's finals week. Like I was studying for all these other subjects. I didn't have a whole lot of time to study for my algebra test. And it was really, really hard. I'm not great at algebra anyway. I thought the easiest thing to do would just be like cheat on a few answers. I got caught and yeah. And I'll be like, okay, all right. Well, I'll tell you what, let me ask this. It's finals week. If you had this to do all over again, if you got prepared all over again, what would you do different? And then the cool thing is then they'll start to like think about it. And they'll start to think about those solutions. What could I have done different? And the cool thing about that, I won't even go into detail, but my kids will usually lay out a plan of what they would do different. Like, oh, I would study this subject on Monday, maybe this one on Tuesday, algebra. I knew I needed help. Maybe I would do a study group or something like that. Or maybe I would get with my teacher or something like that. So then all of a sudden they're creating all of these solutions of what they would have done. And then I look right at them and I'll be like, dude, that's a solid plan, man. Like, I really like that plan. Well, when's your next algebra test? And they'll be like, oh, we actually have one in 3 weeks. Okay. Well, sounds like you have a pretty good idea how you're going to accomplish this. What would stop you from doing that next time you have an algebra test? It'd be like, well, I don't really think anything. Okay, well, great. Well, how can I support you? Do you need me to hold you accountable? Do you want me to help you with it? Do you want me to quiz you or whatever? And they'll tell me. And then they'll come home and they'll take that test, or they'll go to school, they'll take that test. And I've seen this time and time again. They're like, they'll walk in the door and be like, Dad, guess what? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure the algebra test was today. I'm thinking you have some good news. What is it? And they'll be like, I got a B+. I'm like, what? Are you serious? What'd you do? And they're like, I did pretty much exactly what I said I was going to do. And you did it. dude, congratulations. Look at that. And then they'll look at you and be like, thank you so much for helping me. And you're like, I really didn't do anything. All I did was ask you some questions. Now, let me go back for a second. I'm not saying my house is free of consequences. Okay. I will lay out a consequence. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll be like, look, that was pretty dishonest, you cheating. Okay. So we probably need it. We need a consequence for this. What do you think is appropriate? And what I can tell you, Robert, 9 times out of 10, they will pick a punishment or a consequence that is worse than what I thought. And I'll be like, sounds fair. Cool. So you want to hand over your phone for 4 days? All right. That sounds fair. I was thinking like a day, but I don't tell them that. But I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. And then they'll feel that pain point and they learn. So that's the second question. But the cool thing is you get connection from that. You get to be a guide, right? And you create those reps day after day that no matter how bad things are, no matter how dark things are, I can tell Dad. So that's question number 2. Question number 3, I like to call it the Yellowstone hook point. Do you watch Yellowstone?
I have, yeah.
Okay. It doesn't matter what show you watch. They're all the same. At the end of every Netflix or whatever, there's always that hook. And you're like, oh, let me just watch the next 5 minutes of this show. And then you're binge watching the next 5 episodes. So the next question is, well, what are you most excited about tomorrow? Or what are you most excited about this week? Right? I like the tomorrow thing because it bridges the next conversation. So if my kid tells me, Dad, track tryouts are tomorrow, I'm trying out for track. So when my kid comes home, an interested dad is the most interesting dad on the block. Remember that. An interested dad is the most interesting dad on the block. So if I see Ethan come home and I'm like, dude, track tryouts today? How'd they go? And then suddenly like you're in their life, right? Everything that's important to them is important to you. And that's what makes you interesting.
I love it, man. I love it. What is your biggest struggle, pain point right now? Like you're helping guys walk through this and you're probably honest in saying that you don't have it all figured out 100%. It's like, what do you personally have the most difficulty with?
With helping men?
No, just like general, like with parenting.
Oh, parenting. Yeah.
You personally.
I know this sounds kind of crazy. I have 4 boys. I would say the hardest thing for me is I always feel like I'm letting somebody down. If I say yes to my 9-year-old, I'm saying no to my 11-year-old, my 17-year-old, my 19-year-old, my wife. If I say no to something, I'm saying yes to other things. I feel like there's a part of me that I can never do enough. I can never do enough. I feel like I'm on this treadmill of, quite frankly, sometimes of exhaustion, wondering if I'm doing enough, right? I'm always like second guessing, am I doing enough for everybody? Am I spending enough time with every kid? You know, who am I letting down? I think that has been the hardest for me to manage, 5 other people in my family, along with 700 members in our Dad Edge Alliance. I always have about anywhere between 5 to 10 one-on-one clients. And we have another program called the Business Owner Brotherhood, that's a program for our business owners. And all in all, I have a leadership team of 40 people, 4 kids. I always feel like I'm not doing enough. But that's on me.
I can relate with that. You know what Tensegrity means?
No, what is that?
So like a lot of people look at life through this, balance equation. Like you've got your work life, your personal life, but like with balance, by definition, if something's going up, something else is going down. Like it's like if everything's balanced, it's all set to 0, which is who wants to be a 0. So then I kind of stumbled upon this architectural concept called Tensegrity, and it just kind of stuck with me. And it's resonated in a lot of different areas of my life. But basically, it stands for tensional integrity. So everything that you're working on creates tension with other things. And sometimes the overall structure is stronger as a result of it because it's tension, not necessarily a teeter-totter balance effect. And there's certain times where one thing may be getting more emphasis than the other, but they're all working cohesively to build up the whole. And I've looked at my life and like the pillars that I put importance in, and everything's still moving the overall ship forward. And some things just get more attention at a given time than others. But I feel like if you're doing that with your kids, you're doing that with your members. Like, you can see the big picture and know that it's all moving in the right trajectory. And I think that creates some level of peace, I feel.
Can I just say, I wish I would have talked to you like 10 years ago, because I literally just feel like you just put an oxygen mask on me. I've never heard that word, and I've never heard it described like that, but that is so dead on.
Well, it's pretty cool, man. You ought to look it up, like Tensegrity models, like look at it from an architectural standpoint, but you can see it's all these cables bridging different, pillars or structural beams to one another, and it's all under pressure. And I feel like as an entrepreneur, as a father, as a husband, you're always under pressure. But if you're allocating your resources on things that are symbiotic in nature, everything is still getting better. And I think that is the key. Where people go wrong is they're doing all these totally unrelated tasks in life that just keep them running around in a frenzy and nothing ever moves forward. But if everything's cohesive, then even if one thing is not getting all the focus that moment, by the other thing getting focused, it's still moving every piece in the right direction.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Again, I wish I would have met you 10 years ago and you told me that, because I'd probably grab onto it, and it probably would have made that pressure and tension ease just a little bit over the past decade.
Hey, man, we'll keep the conversation going. Where do people learn about your book, man? You just published a book. Tell me about that.
I did. Yeah. So, it's called Pursuit of Legendary Fatherhood. It came out on Amazon on September 16th. And, but yeah, the book is broken up into 4 parts. The drift is the first part. And we pretty much nailed that when we talked about Lance. So that's the drift, right? It's this sneaky thing that happens to us. And I wanted to start with that because I think most men can probably relate to that feeling that they get in life. And what I've heard, that when men read that first chapter, they're like, holy crap, man. Like, that laid it out for me of exactly what I've been feeling. I just didn't know what it was. So that's the drift. So, and then we get to interrupt the drift. We get to marriage. That's part 2. And I go through basically everything that we have, I would say most things that we've learned and taught to our clients and our members is in that section of marriage: communication, connection, intimacy, the whole 9 yards. The third part is fatherhood. So how to connect with those kids, all these questions you have around your 3-year-old and, these adolescents, and then even the teenagers and all those different things, how to raise strong sons, how to raise strong daughters. And then the final part is leadership. And there's 10 tenets in there for leadership as well.
I love it, man. I love it. And Amazon's the best place for people to get that.
So you can go one of 2 places. You can definitely go to Amazon if you want. I decided about 7 weeks before the launch of the book that I was going to do a pre-order campaign. And to be honest, I didn't, my hopes for it weren't that high. I was like, yeah, everybody does pre-orders. I've never done a pre-order for any of my books. I'll do a pre-order for this one. And I decided to also package it with 2 courses that I created a while back. One is called Creating More Patience. That's for a man. That's pretty much for every man. Not only patience with outside factors like your kids or stress at work or with your wife, but also your internal patience, because for a man, it's both. We tend to get very impatient and frustrated with things that challenge us externally. But what we do is we beat ourselves up for not being able to handle it well. Like, I'm weak, I'm terrible, I'm a bad dad, I'm not a patient dad, I suck, I'm this and that. So I also help in that course. We help you with internal patience, like how to be a little bit more graceful with yourself, how to look for solutions instead of beating yourself down. So that's one course. Another course that I'm giving away for free with the pre-order of the book is Creating Extraordinary Marriage. That I teach you 11 skills on how to connect with your wife, how to build more better communication, her needs, your needs, how to create more intimacy, how to have more sex in your life, how to be, instead of mom and dad all the time, you can be husband and wife as well. But it's 11 tactical skills that you can learn how to connect with your wife. So I did that campaign and it went nuts. I literally just got, we're actually going to make a video of all these books that are just like stacked and stacked and stacked of me signing them, because it went crazy. We sold a ton of books. So I'm keeping that actually landing page, even though the book is published. If you want a signed copy of it and you want to buy it from me, you can go to thedadedge.com/legendary book. Again, thedadedge.com/legendary book. If you buy it for $28 there, you'll get each one of those courses. Each one of those courses are $500, but you'll get them 100% for free. So I'm going to keep that up until the end of 2025.
Very cool, man. Very cool. And for people to fill out that 4-minute 7-question survey and not be lazy, they do that on the website as well?
Yeah, they can go to thedadedge.com/mastermind for that one. But they'll see 2 paths. We have 2 different programs. Like I was saying, we have one for our career guys, which is called the Dad Edge Alliance. And then we have one for our business owners. You got to be 100% business owner and outside hustles, called the Dad Edge Business Boardroom Brotherhood. That's a lot of B's, but that's what it's called.
Awesome, man. I love it. Well, you're fighting the good fight, brother. I'm glad we connected. I mean, I feel like I've had several podcasts on, self-improvement, parenting, and like just the state of the world that we now find ourselves in amidst all the chaos. And I feel like so much of it, probably all of it, can link back to just, people having better homes, better parenting, better relationships in their, inner circle. And you're making that a possibility, man. So keep doing what you're doing, brother.
Back at you, man. By the way, you're an incredible interviewer. And I don't know if you've ever been told this, but you just have like this super calming, like, persona. Like, just like, I don't know if you've been told that before, or maybe I caught you on a good day, but you
Probably
just seem like
Southern drawl accent I've got going.
Yeah, something like that. But man, you just seem like one of those dudes that, I don't know, you can say anything to. I don't know what it is about you, but you just seem to have that.
Well, I appreciate it, man. We'll do another follow-up podcast for sure.
That'd be great, man. And by the way, I just want to tell your audience, if you like everything that Robert, and by the way, he didn't ask me to do this, but obviously he speaks from his heart. If you enjoy his show, please go over to iTunes, please go over to Spotify, leave this man a 5-star review. If you've gotten any value from him whatsoever, please go out and leave him a 5-star review.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Let's definitely keep the conversation going though, man. Like I respect people that are fighting the good fight and doing it for the right reasons, of which you most definitely are. So man, if there's everything I can do for you, just let me know.
Oh man, back at you.
Appreciate you, Larry.